Like, subscribe, and turn on notification for more amazing video. Respect!
He faked sleeping to see the alien sister's true intentions and was left blushing by what? Max Draven's muscles ached as he collapsed onto his bed in the security quarters of Nexus Station. After 12 hours of coordinating security for the incoming delegates to the Galactic Concord Summit, he was beyond exhausted. The station's corridors had been a constant flow of exotic beings from across a known space. Diplomats, traders, and cultural attachés, all gathering for what promised to be the most significant interspecies conference in decades. "Computer, lights off," he mumbled, and the room obliged, plunging into darkness, save for the ambient glow of distant stars through his viewport. As security chief for the human contingent, he'd been tasked with welcoming each delegation and ensuring their safety protocols were in place, a job made infinitely more complicated by the varying biological and cultural needs of 24 different species. His thoughts drifted to the Lyrian sisters who had arrived that afternoon. Their deep azure skin had practically glowed under the station's lights, and their flowing silver-white hair cascaded like liquid mercury down their backs. As representatives from Lyria Prime, they were minor diplomatic attachés, but something about them had caught his attention immediately. Perhaps it was their unusually intense interest in him. Throughout the welcoming ceremony, he'd caught them stealing glances his way, whispering to each other behind slender blue fingers. When he'd formally greeted them, the taller one, Ivala, if he remembered correctly, had held his hand a moment longer than protocol dictated, her luminous eyes studying him with unmistakable curiosity. Max sighed, pushing the thought away. Interspecies fraternization was strongly discouraged for security personnel. Admiral Harrington had made that abundantly clear during the briefing. "Keep your pants zipped and your wits sharp, people. We're representing humanity here." He was drifting toward sleep when the soft electronic beep of his door lock disengaging jolted him awake. Years of security training kicked in, and he remained perfectly still, controlling his breathing to feign sleep, while his hand slowly inched toward the stunner beneath his pillow. "Are you certain this is wise, sister?" came a melodic whisper in accented galactic common. "If we're discovered—" "Hush, Vela. The security feeds are looped for 20 minutes. I made sure of it." Max recognized the voices immediately, the Lyrian sisters. His heart hammered against his ribs as he maintained his sleeping pose, mind racing through possible scenarios. Were they spies? Assassins? The Lyrians were known to be peaceful, but interstellar politics was a treacherous game. "Look at him," the first voice, Ivala, continued softly. "Have you ever seen such a magnificent human specimen? The muscular definition, the strong jawline. The broad shoulders," Vela added with a giggle. "Humans are so robust compared to males of other species." Max felt heat rising to his face as he realized they weren't here for espionage, at least not the political kind. "The ambassador said humans are compatible with our physiology," Ivala whispered, moving closer to the bed. "And I've heard they have remarkable stamina." "Sister!" Vela hissed, though her tone carried more excitement than reproach. "We're here to invite him to escort us to the reception tomorrow, not to seduce him immediately." "Why not both?" Ivala replied, and Max could hear the smile in her voice. "The diplomatic corps would be impressed if we secured a high-ranking human escort. And I, for one, am curious about these humans beyond mere diplomatic relations." Max felt the edge of his bed dip slightly as one of them sat beside him. A cool, slender finger traced along his bare arm, sending an involuntary shiver through him. "Such warm skin," Ivala murmured. "So different from our people." "His temperature is normal for humans," Vela said, her voice closer now. "I studied their physiology before our assignment. They run several degrees warmer than Lyrians." "I wonder what else runs hot about them," Ivala said with unmistakable suggestion in her voice. Max felt fingers brush against the drawstring of his sleep pants, and he nearly lost his composure. This had gone far enough. With practiced speed, he caught the wandering hand and sat up, startling both sisters, who gasped in unison. "Ladies," he said evenly, reaching to activate his bedside lamp, "while I'm flattered by your interest. Breaking into security personnel quarters is a serious breach of protocol. In the soft glow of the lamp, the sisters' azure skin took on an almost luminescent quality. Their eyes, large, almond-shaped, and a striking silver that seemed to capture and reflect the light, widened in surprise. Evala, the bolder of the two, recovered first, her startled expression melting into a mischievous smile. "Security Chief Draven," she said, not attempting to withdraw her hand from his grip. "We merely wish to discuss tomorrow's arrangements in private." At 3 in the morning, Max raised an eyebrow, finally releasing her hand. "And after hacking my door lock and looping security feeds?" Vela, the slightly shorter sister with more delicate features, had the decency to look embarrassed. "It was my idea to come now, when fewer people would see us." The diplomatic implications of being seen entering a human's quarters could be complicated. Yet here you are, Max pointed out, acutely aware that he was shirtless and alone with two alien women who had just been discussing his physique in detail. Breaking at least 4 station regulations, Evala leaned forward, her silver-white hair falling over one shoulder. "We apologize for the intrusion, but we have a proposition that could benefit us all." Her eyes traveled appreciatively over his chest before returning to his face. "We need an escort for tomorrow's gala. Someone who understands security protocols and can protect us while navigating the political landscape." "And you decided breaking into my quarters was the best way to ask?" Max couldn't help the slight upward curl of his lips. "We Lyrians believe in being direct," Evala replied with a smile that revealed teeth just slightly sharper than human norm. "Especially when we see something, or someone, we desire." Max ran a hand through his dark hair, weighing his options. Protocol dictated he report this breach immediately, but doing so would create a diplomatic incident. Besides, there was something refreshingly honest about their approach. Bizarre as it was. "Next time, try sending a message during normal hours," he said finally. "Now I'll escort you back to your quarters before someone notices you're missing." Vela stood gracefully. "Then you'll consider our request?" Max reached for his shirt. "I'll speak with my commanding officer. If there are no objections, I'll serve as your security liaison for the gala." "Wonderful," Evala purred, rising from the bed with fluid grace. "We look forward to getting to know human customs better. Much better." As Max guided them toward the door, he couldn't help noticing how their form-fitting attire accentuated their slender yet curved forms. Different from humans in subtle ways, yet familiar enough to be undeniably attractive. "One question," he said as the door slid open. "How did you loop the security feeds?" "That system is supposed to be impenetrable." The sisters exchanged glances and Vela gave a delicate shrug. "Lyrians have certain talents with electronic systems, a cultural specialty." Max made a mental note to have the entire security system rechecked in the morning. "I'll walk you back now." As they moved through the dimly lit corridor, Max couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to these sisters than met the eye. Their interest seemed genuine, but in his line of work, nothing was ever that simple, especially not when it came to beautiful alien women with mysterious talents and an apparent fascination with humans. Whatever their true intentions, tomorrow's gala just got a lot more interesting. Max woke early the next morning, the encounter with the Lyrian sisters still vivid in his mind. After escorting them back to their quarters, he'd spent an hour updating the station's security protocols. If 2 diplomatic attachés could bypass his door locks that easily, who knew what actual spies might accomplish? His comm unit chimed as he finished fastening his uniform. Admiral Harrington's stern face appeared on the screen. "Draven, I've received a formal request from the Lyrian delegation. They're requesting you specifically as security liaison for their representatives during the gala." Max kept his expression neutral. "Yes, sir. They approached me about it last night." "Did they now?" The Admiral's eyebrow rose slightly. "Interesting timing. The request came through official channels just 30 minutes ago." "They were eager to secure arrangements," Max replied carefully. The Admiral studied him for a moment. "The Lyrians are valuable potential allies, Draven. Their technological capabilities would be a significant asset to Earth's defense network. If they've taken a shine to you, use it to our advantage." "Request approved." Thank you, sir. And Draven? The Admiral's expression hardened. Remember who you represent? The screen went dark, leaving Max to wonder exactly how much the Admiral suspected about last night's encounter. The diplomatic wing buzzed with activity as Max arrived at the Lyrian quarters. He straightened his dress uniform, dark blue with silver trim, the Earth Alliance insignia gleaming on his chest, before announcing his presence. The door slid open to reveal Ivala, her azure skin complemented by a flowing gown of shimmering silver that seemed to capture and reflect the light with every movement. Her silver-white hair was elaborately braided with tiny luminescent crystals that matched her eyes. Security Chief Draven, she greeted him with a smile that revealed those slightly pointed teeth. How punctual. Professional habit, he replied, trying to keep his eyes on her face rather than the way her dress hugged her slender form. Please, come in. Vela is just finishing her preparations. The Lyrian quarters were spacious and bathed in a soft blue light that reminded Max of Earth's oceans. The air carried a subtle fragrance, something like jasmine but with an exotic undertone he couldn't place. I must apologize again for our unorthodox introduction last night, Evala said, gesturing for him to sit on a curved sofa that seemed to be grown rather than manufactured. Lyrian customs sometimes clash with human protocols. Is breaking into private quarters a common Lyrian custom? Max asked, unable to keep a hint of amusement from his voice. Direct pursuit of one's interests is, she replied without a trace of embarrassment. On Lyria Prime, we believe in expressing desires openly rather than concealing them behind social pretense. Before Max could respond, Vela emerged from an adjoining room. Her gown matched her sister's in color, but was cut differently, emphasizing her more delicate frame. Where Svala exuded bold confidence, Vela carried an air of refined grace. Chief Draven, she greeted him with a slight bow. Thank you for agreeing to escort us, despite our improper introduction. Please call me Max, he said, rising to his feet. And if we're going to navigate a diplomatic gala together, formality will only get in the way. Max, Evala repeated, as if savoring the name. A strong, simple name. It suits you. As she spoke, Max felt a strange warmth spreading through his chest, a pleasant sensation that seemed to amplify his awareness of both sisters. Vela's eyes widened slightly, and she exchanged a quick glance with Ivala. You feel it, don't you? Vela asked softly. Our connection. Max's security training kicked in. What exactly am I feeling? Evala moved closer, her silver eyes studying his reaction. Lyrians possess empathic abilities. We can sense emotions and, with physical contact, share our own. Yeah, you're reading my emotions. Max took an instinctive step back. Not reading, Vela corrected gently. Sensing, like feeling heat radiating from a fire. We cannot access thoughts, only emotional states. And right now, Ivala added with a knowing smile, your emotional state is quite interesting. Max felt his face warm. That's an invasion of privacy where I come from. For us, it's as natural as seeing or hearing, Vela explained. We cannot simply turn it off, but we can control how much we project to others. Which is why you felt that warmth, Ivala said. I was sharing my appreciation for your appearance. Max's professional training warred with his curiosity. Is this something the Alliance knows about? It's in our biological profile, Vela confirmed, though the full extent of our abilities is not widely discussed outside Lyrian circles. Why tell me then? Ivala's expression became more serious. Because if you are to escort us tonight, you should understand what might happen in close proximity. The gala will be crowded, emotional. Without preparation, the experience could be overwhelming for a non-empath. Max considered this new information. The Admiral had emphasized the importance of the Lyrian alliance, but had conveniently omitted mentioning their empathic abilities. Typical high command, need-to-know basis, and apparently he hadn't needed to know. So at the gala, I'll be feeling what you feel? Only what we choose to share, Vela assured him, and only with direct contact. It can be quite pleasant, actually. The way she said pleasant sent a shiver down Max's spine. He suddenly understood their interest in him with new clarity. They weren't just physically attracted, they were emotionally curious. Humans must feel different to their empathic senses. Consider it a unique form of cultural exchange, Vala suggested, her eyes twinkling with mischief. One that might prove mutually enlightening. The implication hung in the air between them. Max found himself both wary and intrigued by the prospect. Professional boundaries existed for good reasons, but this assignment was already far beyond standard protocol. "I'll need to set some ground rule," he said finally, "for all our sakes." "Of course," Vala agreed. "We respect your boundaries. Though we hope you'll allow some flexibility in those boundaries," Avala added, reaching out to touch his arm lightly. The contact sent a pulse of warm excitement through him, not his own, but hers, shared through the touch. It was intimate in a way he'd never experienced, a direct line to another being's emotions. Max drew a steadying breath. "The gala starts in 2 hours. Perhaps we should discuss these boundaries on the way." Both sisters smiled, and Max had the distinct impression they were sharing some private emotional communication between themselves. "A wise suggestion," Avala said. "And afterward, perhaps we can explore this cultural exchange more thoroughly." Max knew he was stepping into uncharted territory, but as he offered an arm to each sister, he couldn't deny the thrill of anticipation coursing through him. And this time, it was entirely his own. The grand ballroom of Nexus Station sparkled with the combined finery of 24 species. Holographic constellations drifted across the dome ceiling, recreating the night skies of various homeworlds. Soft ambient music, a careful blend of harmonics pleasing to most sentient ears, floated through the air. Max entered with a Lyrian sister on each arm, immediately drawing attention. His dress uniform contrasted sharply with their shimmering silver gowns, making the trio a striking sight. He felt a subtle pulse of pride from Avala through the point where her hand rested on his arm. "You're enjoying this," he murmured. "The attention?" Avala's lips curved upward. "Of course. On Lyria, being escorted by a desirable partner is a status symbol. And having 2 such partners," Vala added from his other side, "is quite the statement." Max raised an eyebrow. "And what statement would that be?" "That we have exceptional taste," Avala replied with a mischievous glint in her silver eyes. As they moved through the crowd, Max noticed the varied reactions. The human delegates showed surprise, some with disapproval, others with poorly concealed envy. The Arcturian ambassador, a tall being with iridescent scales, watched them with obvious curiosity. But it was the Draxian delegation that caught Max's attention. Their ridge-faced ambassador stared at the trio with unmistakable displeasure. "The Draxians seem unhappy," Max noted quietly. Vela tensed slightly against him. "They consider themselves the rightful partners of Lyrians, an ancient alliance that they believe should have evolved into more political marriage," Max asked. "Genetic and cultural assimilation," Avala corrected. "They've been pressuring our government for generations." Before Max could respond, Admiral Harrington approached, his expression carefully neutral. "Chief Draven," he greeted, then nodded to the sisters. "Representatives of Lyria, I trust you're enjoying the festivities." "Immensely, Admiral," Avala replied smoothly. "Your security chief has been most accommodating." The emphasis she placed on the word sent a warm pulse through their contact point that Max struggled to ignore. The Admiral's eyes narrowed slightly. "I'm pleased to hear it. Draven, a word?" Max excused himself and followed the Admiral to a quieter corner of the ballroom. "You're creating quite the spectacle, Draven." "Sir, the Lyrian representatives are highly sought after by several delegations. Your closeness with them is being noticed." Max straightened. "With respect, sir, I'm following your orders to facilitate good relations." "There's facilitating relations, and then there's whatever you 3 are doing," the Admiral replied dryly. "The Draxian ambassador has already lodged an informal complaint. About me escorting them to a gala? About a human interfering with what they consider their cultural prerogative." The Admiral sighed. "Look, I don't care about your personal arrangements, but keep it discreet. We need this summit to succeed." "Understood, sir." As Max returned to the sisters, he found them surrounded by 3 tall Draxians. The aliens' gray, ridge-faced features were set in expressions of cold disdain. At over 7 feet tall, with broad shoulders and muscular builds, they physically dominated the more slender Lyrians. "Insulting to parade yourselves with this, a human," one was saying as Max approached. "The alliance between our worlds deserves more respect." "There is no alliance that dictates our personal choices, Ambassador Krell," Evola replied coolly, though Max could see tension in her posture. "Your father would disagree," the Draxian, Krell, responded. "He understands the importance of our people's union." Max stepped smoothly between them. "Pardon the interruption, but I believe the representatives were about to join me for the ceremonial toast." Krell's yellow eyes fixed on Max with undisguised contempt. "This is not your concern, human." "As their designated security liaison, their well-being is precisely my concern," Max replied evenly, meeting the alien's gaze without flinching. A tense silence stretched between them. Max was acutely aware of the Draxian's greater size and strength, but kept his posture relaxed, confident. Years of security training had taught him that projection of authority often mattered more than physical advantage. Finally, Krell snorted. "Enjoy your, liaison while it lasts. Lyrians always return to their proper place." His eyes shifted to the sisters. "Both of you would do well to remember your family's obligations." As the Draxians moved away, Max felt a tremor run through Vela's hand where it gripped his arm. "Are you all right?" he asked quietly. "Yes," she replied, though her emotional projection suggested otherwise. "It's an old argument." "One that grows tiresome," Evola added, her usual playfulness subdued. "Our father is a traditionalist who believes in strengthening old alliances, Through arranged marriages," Max guessed. "Through genetic partnership," Vela corrected. "The Draxians believe combining our empathic abilities with their physical strength would create an advantageous evolutionary line." Max felt a surge of protectiveness. "And what do you believe?" "That choice matters more than tradition," Evala said firmly. "That compatibility should be based on more than political convenience." Their eyes met, and Max felt a wave of warmth flow through their connection. Gratitude mixed with something deeper, more intimate. The intensity of it made his breath catch. "Besides," Vela added with a small smile, "humans are far more emotionally compatible with Lyrians than Draxians could ever be. Your emotional spectrum is remarkably similar to ours." "Is that why you chose me?" Max asked. "Emotional compatibility?" "Partly," Evola admitted, "but mostly because of how you felt when we first saw you. Strong, honorable, and..." She paused, her silver eyes twinkling. "Undeniably attractive." Max felt his face warm at her directness. "The Admiral suggested we be more discreet." "Difficult when every time we touch, your emotions broadcast so clearly," Vela teased, her earlier distress fading. "I can't control that," Max protested. "We wouldn't want you to," Evala replied, stepping closer. "Your emotional honesty is refreshing. Draxians keep everything locked away, controlled." "Speaking of control," Max said, nodding toward the Draxian ambassador who was watching them from across the room, "your admirer seems unwilling to give up." "Then perhaps we should give him something to truly disapprove of," Evala suggested, her fingers tracing a pattern on Max's arm that sent shivers of pleasure through their connection. "What did you have in mind?" Max asked, already suspecting the answer. "A traditional Lyrian dance," Vela replied innocently. "One that celebrates close connections." As the music shifted to a slower, more sensual rhythm, Max found himself led to the center of the dance floor by both sisters, acutely aware that they were about to make an even bigger spectacle, and finding to his surprise that he didn't care in the slightest. The Lyrian dance was unlike anything Max had experienced. It wasn't just physical movement, it was an emotional conversation. Each touch, each step, each turn conveyed feelings that flowed between the three of them in waves. The sisters guided him through the unfamiliar patterns, their hands never leaving his body for long. As they moved together, Max felt the sisters' emotions mingling with his own. Evala's bold desire, Vela's gentler affection, both wrapped in a shared exhilaration. The dance required constant contact, hands sliding along arms, fingers intertwining, the bodies pressing close, then spinning apart only to reconnect moments later. Around them, the ballroom had grown quieter. Other dancers had moved aside, creating a space where the three of them moved in their own intimate world. Max was vaguely aware of the stares, the whispers, but found himself caring less with each passing moment. When the music finally ended, they stood breathless in the center of the floor, still connected. The silence that followed was broken by scattered applause, primarily from the human delegation and a few of the more progressive alien representatives. That was... Max struggled to find words. "Just the beginning," Evola finished, her silver eyes gleaming with promise. As they made their way from the dance floor, Max noticed Admiral Harrington's resigned headshake, but it was the Draxian delegation's reaction that concerned him more. Ambassador Krell and his aides had vanished from their previous position. "I think we've made our point," Max murmured. "Quite effectively," Vela agreed, her fingers still intertwined with his. A station attendant approached them, bowing slightly. "Representatives of Lyria, your presence is requested in Conference Room Delta. Your father has arrived and wishes to speak with you immediately." Max felt both sisters stiffen simultaneously. Through their contact, he sensed a spike of anxiety that neither of their composed expressions revealed. "Our father?" Avola's voice remained steady despite her inner turmoil. "He wasn't scheduled to attend the summit. He arrived on the diplomatic vessel from Lyria Prime 30 minutes ago," the attendant explained. "He insists it's urgent." Vela squeezed Max's hand. "Would you accompany us?" "Are you sure that's wise?" Max asked quietly. "If your father supports the Draxian Alliance..." "Precisely why we need you," Evola replied. "Your presence will make a statement we couldn't make with words alone." Conference Room Delta was one of the smaller diplomatic chambers, designed for private discussions rather than formal negotiations. When they entered, Max immediately identified the Lyrian patriarch, tall even for his species, with silver white hair cut short in a military style, and ceremonial robes that spoke of a high office. He wasn't alone. Ambassador Krell stood beside him, a satisfied smile on his ridge-faced features. "Daughters," the Lyrian elder said, his voice deep and resonant, "I see the reports of your unconventional behavior were not exaggerated." "Father," both sisters acknowledged in unison, their postures straightening. "High Counselor Talon," Evola continued, "may I present Security Chief Max Draven of Earth Alliance, Chief Draven, our father, High Counselor Talon of Lyria Prime." Max bowed respectfully. "Counselor?" Talon barely glanced at him. "Why is this human here? This is a family matter." "Chief Draven is our official escort for the duration of the summit," Vela explained. "A role that ends at this door," Krell interjected. "The matters we must discuss are not for outsiders." Max felt Avala's hand tighten on his arm, not in fear, but in determination. "Max stays," she said firmly. "Whatever you wish to discuss can be said in his presence." Talon's eyes narrowed. "Your behavior reflects poorly on our family and our world, daughters. The dance you performed is reserved for bonded triads, not diplomatic spectacles." "We are aware of its significance," Vela replied quietly. "Are you?" Talon's voice sharpened. "Ambassador Krell has informed me that you've been flaunting your association with this human throughout the summit, deliberately undermining years of careful diplomacy between our worlds." "We've undermined nothing," Evola countered. "The Draxian assumption that they have some claim to Lyrian genetic lines is not diplomacy, it's presumption." Krell stepped forward, his towering form looming over them. "Your father understands the benefits of our people's union. The genetic compatibility studies are conclusive. Draxian strength combined with Lyrian empathic abilities would create a superior lineage." "And what of choice?" Max found himself asking. "Does that factor into your compatibility studies?" All eyes turned to him. Krell's expression darkened with contempt. "This is not your concern, human." "You've made it my concern," Max replied evenly, "by attempting to dictate the personal choices of two women I care about." Through their contact, Max felt a surge of warmth from both sisters. Gratitude and something deeper, more profound. Talon studied Max with new interest. "You speak boldly for someone with no standing in this matter." "With respect, Counselor, if your daughters have chosen to include me in their lives, I do have standing." "Chosen?" Talon raised an eyebrow. Based on what? A few days of acquaintance? Physical attraction? These are not foundations for decisions that impact generations. They're a start, Max replied, and more honest than political calculations. Talon's expression remained stern, but something flickered in his eyes. A reluctant respect, perhaps. "Daughters, I must speak with you alone," he said finally. "Ambassador Krell, Chief Draven, please excuse us." Krell began to protest, but Talon silenced him with a gesture. Max felt the sisters' hesitation through their connection. "It's all right," he assured them quietly. "I'll be right outside." As Max turned to leave, Ivala caught his hand, pulling him close. Before he could react, she pressed her lips to his in a brief but unmistakable kiss that sent a jolt of desire through their empathic link. "So there's no confusion about our intentions," she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. Max exited with Krell, the Draxian's yellow eyes burning with barely contained fury. In the corridor outside, the ambassador rounded on him. "You have no idea what forces you're interfering with, human," he hissed. "The alliance between Draxia and Lyria has been cultivated for generations." "Maybe it's time for new growth," Max suggested calmly. Krell's hand shot out, grabbing Max's uniform front. "This isn't over. The sisters will fulfill their obligation to their world, one way or another." Max didn't flinch. "Remove your hand, Ambassador, unless you want to create a diplomatic incident." After a tense moment, Krell released him with a contemptuous shove. "Enjoy your temporary amusement, human. When this summit ends, they return to Lyria Prime and to reality." As the Draxian stalked away, Max straightened his uniform, a sense of unease settling in his gut. Krell's words hadn't been merely angry, they'd sounded like a threat. Max paced outside the conference room, Krell's threat echoing in his mind. The Draxian's words hadn't been merely angry, they'd carried the weight of intention. After 15 minutes of waiting, Max made a decision. He tapped his comm unit. "Lieutenant Man, I need access to visitor logs and security feeds for the Draxian delegation. Priority level Alpha." "Sir?" Man's voice crackled through the comm. "That requires Admiral Harrington's authorization." "Then get it," Max replied. "Tell him it's regarding potential diplomatic sabotage. I'll take full responsibility." While waiting for Man's response, the conference room door slid open. The sisters emerged, their expressions unreadable, followed by their father. To Max's surprise, Counselor Talon approached him directly. "Chief Draven, I would speak with you privately." Max exchanged glances with the sisters, who nodded encouragingly. "Of course, Counselor." Talon led him to a small observation deck overlooking the station's docking bays. For a moment, the Lyrian elder simply stared out at the stars, his hands clasped behind his back. "My daughters tell me you defended their right to choose their own path," he said finally, "even against your superior's wishes." "I believe personal freedom matter," Max replied carefully. Talon turned to face him. "A very human sentiment. On Lyria, the needs of bloodlines sometimes outweigh individual desires." "With respect, Counselor, your daughters seem to disagree." "They are young," Talon said, but without the dismissive tone Max expected. "Though perhaps not as foolish as I initially thought." He studied Max with penetrating silver eyes. "They claim the empathic resonance between you is exceptional, unprecedented even." Max shifted uncomfortably. "I wouldn't know. I'm not empathic." "No, but you are remarkably receptive to empathic connection. My daughters say your emotional responses are pure, unfiltered." A hint of amusement crossed Talon's face. "They find it quite intoxicating." Heat rose to Max's cheeks. "Sir, I dash. Talon raised a hand. "I did not approve of their behavior, but I understand it better now. The Draxian's emotional landscape is rigid, controlled. For empaths like my daughters, connecting with such minds is unsatisfying." "Is that why you came here? To understand why they rejected the Draxian alliance?" "Partially," Talon admitted, "but also because Ambassador Krell contacted me with concerns about Earth's growing influence over Lyria." His expression hardened. "I believe his concerns may extend beyond diplomatic disagreement." Max's comm unit chimed. "Excuse me, Counselor." He stepped away and activated the device. Draven here. Sir? Man's voice came through. The Admiral authorized limited access. You were right. The Draxians accessed the station's environmental controls 3 times in the past 6 hours, and they've been asking questions about the filtration systems for the main conference hall. Lock down those systems immediately, Max ordered, and put a discreet security detail on the Draxian delegation. Already done, sir. Max turned back to Talon, who was watching him with sharp interest. The Draxians are planning something, Max explained. They've been accessing environmental systems. Talon's expression darkened. The Earth-Lyria trade agreement is scheduled to be signed tomorrow in the main conference hall. An agreement that would diminish Draxian influence in your sector, Max realized. Krell would not dare attack openly, Talon said, but sabotage disguised as a technical malfunction. He shook his head. I did not believe he would go this far. I need to warn the Admiral, Max said. And I must speak with my daughters, Talon replied. It seems I have misjudged many things. Max found the sisters waiting in his quarters, their formal gowns exchanged for simpler attire that somehow made them no less striking. The moment he entered, they both rose, concern evident in their expressions. What did our father say? Avala asked. He's more understanding than I expected, Max replied, moving to his security terminal. But we have bigger problems. The Draxians are planning something for tomorrow's signing ceremony. He quickly explained what Man had discovered. As he spoke, he accessed the station's security systems, reviewing the logs of Draxian movements. They wouldn't dare harm our father, Vela said, but uncertainty tinged her voice. I don't think he's their target, Max replied, studying the data. The environmental systems they accessed control atmosphere composition. They could be planning to release something that would affect humans specifically. To prevent the Earth-Lyria agreement, Evala concluded, without harming Lyrians. Exactly. Max continued scanning through security feeds. But we need proof before we can confront them officially. Vela moved beside him, her hand resting lightly on his shoulder. Through the contact, Max felt her concern, but also a steady resolve that bolstered his own determination. We can help, she said. Lyrians can sense deception. If we could get close enough to Krell or his aides. Too dangerous, Max replied immediately. If they suspect, you know. They won't, Evala interrupted, joining them. They believe we're too distracted by you to notice anything else. Her fingers traced along his arm, sending a pulse of warmth through their connection that momentarily derailed his thoughts. Despite the seriousness of the situation, Max couldn't help responding to her touch, a fact that brought a knowing smile to her lips. See? Most convincing distraction in the galaxy. Max cleared his throat. This isn't a game of Allah. No, she agreed, her expression sobering. It's about protecting what matters. Her hand found his, fingers intertwining. You matter, Max. To both of us. The sincerity in her voice, amplified by the emotions flowing through their connection, left Max momentarily speechless. What had begun as attraction had evolved into something deeper, something he hadn't expected to find on this assignment, or perhaps ever. Vela's hand joined theirs, creating a three-way connection that resonated with shared purpose and affection. Let us help you. Together, we're stronger than any of us alone. Max looked from one sister to the other, seeing the determination in their silver eyes. He knew he should refuse, should insist they stay safely away from whatever the Draxians were planning. But he also recognized the truth in Vela's words. Their unique abilities, combined with his security expertise, gave them the best chance of preventing whatever Krell had planned. All right, he conceded, but we do this carefully. No unnecessary risks. Both sisters nodded, though the mischievous glint in Avala's eyes suggested her definition of unnecessary might differ from his. First, Max continued, we need to find out exactly what they're planning to release into the environmental system. And then, Vela asked. Max's expression hardened. Then we make sure Ambassador Krell understands that threatening Earth and Lyria was the biggest mistake of his diplomatic career. As they began formulating their plan, Max was struck by how naturally they worked together, each contributing their strengths. And beneath the focus on their mission, he felt something else through their empathic connection, a sense of rightness, of belonging that transcended the boundaries of their different species and worlds. Whatever happened tomorrow, Max knew with certainty that his life had changed irrevocably the moment two azure-skinned sisters had decided to break into his quarters in the middle of the night. Morning arrived with the artificial dawn cycle of Nexus Station. Max had barely slept, spending most of the night analyzing security data with the sisters. By 0600 hours, they had their answer, and it was worse than they'd feared. A neurological agent, Max explained to Admiral Harrington and Counselor Talon in the station's secure briefing room. Designed to target human brain chemistry, non-lethal, but it would incapacitate every human in the conference hall within minutes, leaving the Lyrian delegation vulnerable to negotiate under Draxian influence, Talon concluded, his expression grim. Admiral Harrington studied the molecular structure displayed on the holographic projector. "You're certain of this?" "Lieutenant Mann found traces in the filtration system," Max confirmed, "and we've located what appears to be the delivery device in Maintenance Shaft 14C, adjacent to the conference hall." "Why not simply remove it?" Harrington asked. "Because we need irrefutable proof of Draxian involvement," Max replied. "Right now we have circumstantial evidence at best. If we confront them without proof, they'll deny everything." Talon nodded slowly. "A diplomatic confrontation, then?" Forced Krell to reveal himself. "Exactly," Max agreed. "Counselor Talon has arranged a pre-signing meeting with the Draxian delegation. The sisters will accompany him, and their empathic abilities will confirm Krell's involvement," Harrington surmised. "While I locate and neutralize the device," Max continued, "once we have confirmation, you can make a formal accusation with evidence in hand." Harrington's eyes narrowed. "It's risky. If the Draxians realize we're onto them—" "They won't," Evala interjected from where she and Vela stood near the door. "They believe we're too distracted by our human companion to notice their schemes." The Admiral's gaze shifted between Max and the sisters, a knowing look crossing his weathered features. "Yes, I've noticed your distraction, Chief Draven." Max maintained his professional demeanor despite the heat rising to his face. "Sir, I assure you—" "Save it," Harrington interrupted, though without rancor. "Just make sure your personal entanglements don't compromise this operation." He turned to Talon. "Counselor, can you keep Krell engaged long enough?" "With pleasure," the Lyrian elder replied. "I have many grievances to discuss regarding his interest in my daughters." 30 minutes later, Max crouched in the dimly lit maintenance shaft, his security toolkit spread before him. The device was elegant in its simplicity, a small canister attached to the ventilation system, timed to release its contents precisely when the conference hall would be filled with delegates for the signing ceremony. "Man, I've located the device," he reported quietly into his comm. "Stand by for neutralization protocol." "Copy that, sir. Monitoring from security." Max carefully examined the canister, noting the subtle warning glyphs in Draxian script. A wrong move could trigger an early release. He needed to be precise. His comm chimed softly. "Max?" Vela's voice came through, pitched low. "We're entering the Draxian diplomatic suite now." "Understood, be careful." "Always," she replied, and he could hear the smile in her voice. "Though Evala is enjoying this performance perhaps too much." Despite the tension, Max smiled. He could imagine Evala's theatrical flair as she played her role of love-struck diplomat's daughter. Returning his focus to the device, Max began the delicate process of disarming it. His fingers moved with practiced precision, disconnecting the timing mechanism first, then carefully sealing the release valve. "Sir," Mann's voice interrupted, "I'm detecting movement in your sector. 2 Draxian security personnel heading your way." Max froze. "ETA?" 2 minutes, maybe less." Cursing under his breath, Max worked faster. The neutralization protocol required a specific sequence. Rushing could trigger the very release he was trying to prevent. "1 minute, sir." The final connection came loose, and Max carefully placed the now harmless canister in his containment case. Device secured. Heading to extraction point. He gathered his tools and moved deeper into the maintenance shaft, away from the approaching Draxians. The narrow passage forced him to crawl. The containment case clutched awkwardly against his chest. "Sir, they've entered the shaft. They're checking the installation point." Max increased his pace, navigating through the labyrinthine maintenance system toward the predetermined exit point. Behind him, he heard the unmistakable sound of Draxian voices, their tones shifting from confident to alarmed as they discovered their device missing. "They're in pursuit, sir." "Understood." Max reached a junction and made a quick decision, taking the left passage instead of the planned right. "Changing route. Alert security to meet me at access point 17B. As he moved, his thoughts turned to the sisters. If the Draxians realized their plan was compromised, his comm activated again. "Max?" This time it was Ivala, her voice tight with controlled tension. "Krell knows. I don't know how, but he knows we're on to him. He's making excuses to leave the meeting." "Stay with your father," Max instructed. "Don't let him isolate you." "Too late for that," she replied. "He's ordered his guards to escort us to their ship for private negotiations." Father is trying to refuse, but they're insistent. Max's protective instincts flared. "Man, alert all security. The Draxian delegation is attempting to remove Counselor Talon and his daughters from the station against their will." "Already on it, sir. Admiral Harrington is heading there personally." The sounds of pursuit grew louder behind him. Max reached access point 17B and pushed through the panel, emerging into a service corridor where two security officers waited. "Secure this," he ordered, handing one the containment case. "Get it to the Admiral." "Evidence of Draxian sabotage." "Yes, sir." "Where's the Draxian diplomatic suite?" Max demanded. "Level 4, Section C." Max was already running before the officer finished speaking. His heart pounded with more than exertion. The empathic connection he shared with the sisters allowed him to sense their distress even at this distance. Fear, anger, determination. The emotions flowed through the bond, spurring him faster. He reached level 4 to find the corridor outside the Draxian suite in chaos. Station security faced off against Draxian guards, Admiral Harrington at the forefront. "They've barricaded themselves inside," the Admiral explained as Max approached, "claiming diplomatic immunity while they prepare their ship for departure." "With the hostages?" Max added grimly. "Precisely," Harrington's expression was stone. "We can't breach without risking an interstellar incident." Max felt a sudden pulse through his empathic connection. Vela reaching out deliberately, an image formed in his mind. A service entrance, hidden behind an ornamental panel in the suite's meditation chamber. "There's another way in," he said. "The sisters are showing me." Harrington raised an eyebrow but didn't question it. "Do what you need to do, Draven. But remember, we need them alive for formal charges." "Understood, sir." As Max moved away to find the access point Vela had shown him, he felt another pulse through this connection. This one from Ivala. Not an image this time, but a feeling. A fierce determination tinged with something deeper, more personal, a promise. "We will face this together," the feeling seemed to say. "All three of us." Despite everything, Max smiled. What had begun with him feigning sleep to catch intruders had evolved into something he never could have imagined. A bond that transcended species, a connection that felt more right than anything in his life before. Now he just had to make sure they all survived to explore what that connection truly meant. Max moved silently through the narrow service passage, guided by Vela's mental image. The maintenance tunnel opened into a small utility closet within the Draxian diplomatic suite. Pressing his ear against the inner door, he listened carefully. "Oh, foolish to think you could escape consequences," came Talon's voice, remarkably calm despite the circumstances. "The Earth Alliance already has the evidence." "Evidence of what?" Krell's voice responded, dripping with false innocence. "A simple atmospheric regulator? Hardly a crime." "A regulator containing a neurological agent targeting humans," Talon countered. "Your diplomatic immunity won't protect you from charges of attempted mass incapacitation." A tense silence followed. Max used the moment to scan the room through a small ventilation grate in the door. The Lyrian sat rigidly in ornate chairs, surrounded by 4 Draxian guards. Krell paced before them, his ridge-faced features twisted in frustration. "You have no proof of our involvement," the ambassador insisted. To Max's surprise, Talon smiled. "Actually, I do." The Lyrian counselor reached slowly into his ceremonial robes and withdrew a small recording device. "A precaution I've taken in all meetings with Draxian officials for the past decade. Your admission that humans are inconvenient obstacles to our world's proper alliance is quite clear. Krell lunged forward, but Evala moved faster than Max would have thought possible. Her hand shot out, catching the ambassador's wrist in a surprisingly strong grip. "Touch my father," she said quietly, "and diplomatic incident becomes the least of your concerns." Max seized the moment. He burst through the door, stunner drawn. "Security! Everyone freeze!" The Draxian guards hesitated, caught between their duty to protect their ambassador and the sudden appearance of an armed human. Max used their confusion to position himself between the guards and the Lyrians. "Ambassador Krell," he announced formally, "you're being detained on suspicion of attempted sabotage and unlawful detention of diplomatic personnel." "This is outrageous," Krell sputtered. "You have no authority." The suite's main doors slid open, revealing Admiral Harrington flanked by a security team. "He doesn't," the Admiral agreed coldly. "But I do." As the security team moved in to secure the Draxians, Max felt a gentle touch on his arm. Vela stood beside him, her silver eyes shining with relief and something deeper. "Perfect timing," she murmured. "I had good directions," he replied with a smile. Evala joined them, her usual confidence tempered with genuine warmth as she took his other hand. Through their connected touch, Max felt a wave of shared emotion, relief, gratitude, and an affection that transcended mere physical attraction. "I knew you'd come," she said simply. 3 days later, Max stood in the now peaceful observation deck, watching shuttles depart as the summit concluded. The Draxian delegation had been formally censured, their diplomatic status revoked, pending a full investigation. The Earth-Lyria trade agreement had been signed with great ceremony, heralding a new era of cooperation between their worlds. And yet, amid these diplomatic triumphs, Max found himself facing an uncertain future. His assignment would end with the summit. The sisters would return to Lyria Prime with their father. Their brief, intense connection would become nothing more than a memory. "You're projecting melancholy," came Avala's voice behind him. So strongly, even non-empaths could probably sense it. Max turned to find both sisters approaching, their azure skin luminous in the starlight. They wore simpler attire now, practical travel clothes that somehow enhanced rather than diminished their ethereal beauty. "Just contemplating the end of an unusual assignment," he replied with a forced smile. Vela tilted her head, studying him. "Is that truly all you're contemplating?" Before he could answer, Counselor Tylan and Admiral Harrington entered the observation deck together, deep in conversation. They approached the trio with purposeful strides. "Chief Draven," Harrington began without preamble, "Counselor Talon has made an interesting proposal regarding Earth-Lyria relations." Max straightened. "Sir?" "The incident with the Draxians has highlighted the need for enhanced security cooperation between our worlds," Talon explained. "I've proposed establishing a joint security liaison office." "A permanent diplomatic security position," Harrington clarified, "requiring regular travel between Earth and Lyria Prime." Max's heart quickened as he began to understand. "And you're telling me this because I've recommended you for the position," Talon said directly. "Your unique compatibility with Lyrians makes you ideally suited." The counselor's knowing gaze shifted briefly to his daughters before returning to Max. "Unless, of course, you prefer to remain stationed here." Max felt a surge of emotion through his empathic connection with the sisters. Hope, anticipation, desire. "I would be honored to accept," he replied, struggling to maintain professional composure despite the joy bubbling within him. "Excellent," Harrington nodded. "The details will need to be worked out, but you can begin transition immediately." As the two leaders moved away to continue their discussion, Max turned to the sisters, hardly daring to believe this unexpected turn of events. "Did you know about this?" he asked. "We might have suggested the idea to Father," Evala admitted with a mischievous smile, "though the final decision was his." "And a surprising one," Vela added. "He's traditionally been quite conservative regarding interspecies relations." Max raised an eyebrow. "What changed his mind?" "You did," Evala replied simply. "Your willingness to risk yourself for us. Your emotional honesty. The way you stood up to Krell. And perhaps," Vela added with gentle humor, The fact that we made it abundantly clear we would pursue you regardless of his approval. Max laughed, feeling lighter than he had in days. So what happens now? Now, Evola said, stepping closer until he could feel the warmth of her body, we begin exploring what this connection between us truly means. Without interruptions, Vela added, moving to his other side. Or pretending to be asleep, Ivala teased, her fingers tracing a pattern on his chest that sent shivers through their empathic link. Max felt his face warm at the reminder of how their unusual relationship had begun. I'm never going to live that down, am I? Never, both sisters confirmed in unison, their silver eyes twinkling with mirth. As Max gazed at these extraordinary women who had quite literally broken into his life, and he marveled at how a simple security assignment had transformed into something so profound. What had begun with him feigning sleep to catch intruders had evolved into a bond that promised to bridge not just their hearts, but their worlds. I should warn you, he said, taking each of their hands in his, humans tend to be rather possessive in relationships. How fortunate, Vela replied softly, that Lyrians believe the strongest bonds are formed in threes. A perfect balance, Avala agreed, her thumb tracing circles on his palm that sent waves of anticipation through their connection. As they stood together against the backdrop of stars, Max realized that the universe had just become infinitely more complex and infinitely more wonderful. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, a human and two Lyrian sisters who had found in each other something rare and precious, a home that transcended the boundaries of worlds. So, he said with a smile that held both promise and certainty, when do we leave for Lyria Prime? Soon, Avala assured him, her eyes gleaming with anticipation, but not before we properly celebrate our new arrangement. In private, Vela added meaningfully, as they led him away from the observation deck, Max reflected that sometimes the most extraordinary journeys began with the simplest of moments, like pretending to be asleep when two beautiful alien women broke into your quarters in the middle of the night, and he wouldn't have changed a single moment of it.